afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for the webinar. I, Zafir Ahmed from Realistic Realtors, welcome you all for the interactive session on COVID-19 impact on warehouse space absorption and way forward for logistics industry. Realistic Realtor is a homegrown and one of the fastest growing real estate consulting agencies. Our presence and serviceability in 400 plus cities make us the largest Indian consulting firm with more than 200 professionals on board. Moving ahead towards our esteemed and industry expert panelists who are prominent speakers and intellectuals in their domain, please welcome Dr. Arunachalam, CEO of ProConnect Supply Chain Solution, Mr. Sumit Sharma, co-founder GoBolt. Allow me to introduce Mr. Sandeep Chanda, Head Strategy and Acquisitions in Embassy Industrial Parks, Mr. Rahul Gautam, Head of Real Estate from Brofers.com. And now, allow me to introduce our co-host and moderator of the day and moderator for this webinar, Mr. John Thomas, the Group Director of Realistic Realtors. As per the latest market reports, the net absorption of warehousing space in 2019 was approximately 37 million square feet as compared to 32 million square feet in the year 2018. 2020 was projected around 40 million square feet, but with the COVID impact, it is now estimated to be around 30 million square feet, close to a 20% decrease from the last year. So out of this total 37 million square feet, A-grade warehouses absorption was around 21 million square feet, nearly 58% of total absorption. And remaining 42%, around 16 million, was grade B and C supply. As per the reports, pre-COVID, A-grade warehouse was projected to increase by 25% annually. So Bangalore, Delhi and Mumbai were the top cities where more than 55% of the total absorption happened in the year 2019. Interestingly, tier 2 cities like Lucknow, Jaipur, Patna, Ahmedabad, Hyderabad, Guwahati, etc. also reported around 6 million square feet of warehouse absorption. And whereas Delhi and Mumbai alone is projected to be 20 million square feet in 2020. So out of this total absorption, 3PL industry was the highest space consumers with close to 45% in 2019, wherein e-commerce players consumed 18% and retail consumed 11%. And rest was attributed to FMCG, pharma and other companies. So Indian warehousing sector witnessed a huge investment, approximately 254 billion rupees since 2017, and estimated to reach around 495 billion rupees in 2023. And this attention is majorly backed by the e-commerce and 3PL industrial demand. Industrial and warehousing sector is one of the preferred rental class for investment, as all of know. After the commercial office space and retail malls, it is being considered a long-term investment because of its high demand, low risk and high leasing probability. BTS options are the most preferred ones due to the lack of quality supply. And many PE funds like sovereign funds and other developers have already forayed into this industry, and many have planned. This is all as of now, and let's find out from our expert panelist about many such important aspects of logistics and warehousing industry.
Thank you so much for taking us around the snapshot of logistic and warehouse industry. That was great insight and a quick one. My first question would be to Dr. Arunachalam. And when we talk about COVID-19 and its impact, the first thing comes to our mind is absorption, supply, demand to any particular sector. And same is here. So I would like to know from Dr. Arunachalam as what are the negative and positive impact and absorption effect on different sectors, first of all. And within warehousing, which all other sectors which would be negatively and positively impacted, and what could be the key factors? Over to you, Dr. Arunachalam.
Hi, thank you for that question. I feel first we'll have to take up the key driving factors for this. During the COVID time and post the COVID, whatever the time that it takes to come back to normalcy, we feel the basic necessities to be filled is going to be the fundamental feeling of people. After that, only anything can actually come, number one. So when we do that, people also would be conscious about the social distancing, less exposure to any external environments temporarily till the time we all come back to normalcy. Conserve cash, which is going to be the one important mantra. So with all this, in my opinion, and the studies that as of now available, the negatively going to be impacted segments are, we have been talking about retail. Unfortunately, that is one of the predominant areas. Next is the automobile. Last about 7-8 months, even before COVID, automobile has started seeing a decline. Overall, automotive segment would go through a difficulty. The third one is the kind of luxury products. Basic needs we discussed. Luxury, definitely people will take pause and then decide what they want to do. Fourth one, oil and gas business, we feel definitely will have an effect. Next is, of course, the construction. The last, in my opinion, is going to be the high-end gadgets and technology products. So on a warehousing side, since the businesses like ours runs on multiple such industry verticals, we feel there's going to be a negative impact. Therefore, we need to be prepared. Quickly coming on to the positive side of it, definitely the internet usages are going to be high. The telecom users are going to be high. The food sector is going to be see a buoyant atmosphere. E-commerce, no doubt to say, no need to elaborate. E-commerce is definitely going to be in the countries like US. When we are talking, e-commerce is the one which is really rolling the ball. Healthcare, health tech is something really which is very important. Then next one is alternate energy, is something which people will really look at. The last one is the agricultural produce. Warehousing operations related to some of these, in my opinion, will see a positive impact. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you. That was very exhaustive, and you covered everything actually. And of course, we all know that e-commerce is the role booster, and I'm sure some positive news across the industry from e-commerce will definitely give a positive impact overall. Thank you, Doctor. The corporates, they all are under this current situation talking about rent waivers and rent concessions. So do you think that rent concession is also a predominantly phenomenon in warehousing industry? This question goes to Sumit. Sumit, over to you, please.
Thank you, John. Yeah, a very thoughtful question, because in such times, we all know there is a very deep impact on cash flows of most of the industries, except for FMCG, staple, some part of e-commerce, etc. All other industries have impacted. Now talk about the 3PL industry or the warehousing industry, where the small warehousing players, etc. Okay, their cash flows have crunched, and typically logistics, we all understand, they work on a very positive working capital cycle. Okay, where they have to look into how their cash inflows are coming, how their collections are coming, and then they look into outflows. If you also look at the P&L part of it, as in the revenue and cost part of it, right now under COVID lockdown, most of the revenue for warehousing company had been impacted. See, and on the cash flow part also, the money that was due to the market, there is restricted inflow for that. So a lot of stress has been seen by the warehousing company, and that is why this entire discussion of rent waivers, rent concessions have come up. If you talk about the other side of the perspective, the landowners, the smaller landowners, okay, or maybe people who have built and who have taken loans and built the warehouses and given it on leases. This lease revenue might be the only cash flow for them during this, or they might be running EMIs for them. Of course, there has to be a balance here on this. I think the best approach for people would be to sit across and each walk an extra mile and come in between, where there can be partial waivers, partial concession, so that the landowners or the warehouse owners understand they need the longevity of the customers or the tenants for them to have a longer business interest. And the business owners also need to be considerate of the individual landowners, and nobody should be deep into red, or nobody should be very impacted around this. Over to you, John.
Thank you, Sumit. Thank you. I really like your suggestion for mutual discussion. I fully agree with that. In this current situation where the entire mankind is in trouble, the only way is together. The same thought I would put it to Sandeep from the developer's background. I would like to know your opinion, Sandeep, as how would this work from a developer or a warehouse owner perspective? Though Sumit answered it a bit.
Overall, I agree with Sumit that you have to have a consensus at some point in time, and nobody should take undue advantage of each other, because the situation is bad and it has hit badly everybody, and possibly equally in certain cases. Developers point of view, let me tell you, all developers today are very, very highly levered. What it means is that uh, the entire rent that we receive possibly goes out to the bank. It goes to an escrow account. From that escrow account, it directly goes to the bank. These are all LRDs. And typically the way developer today works is builds up a particular building, replaces the construction loan with LRD, gets a top-up LRD. With that top-up LRD, goes for buying further land and further mortgages that land and take construction loans. So this cycle continues. So there is very little margin for a developer to actually sustain itself. And as rightly Sumit pointed out, there has to be consensus somewhere. Occupier has to understand the cash flow position of the developer, and developer has to understand that the occupier is also going through hard times. Having this debate around force majeure, I think, will continue for some time. This is a trend which will get sorted only in the later leases. But for the time being, as I rightly said, and I agree with Sumit completely.
Thank you, Sandeep. That was quite in detail, and I appreciate you discussing the legal part, especially the force majeure today. That's the word, especially in terms of the legal and the lease language. Though we all agree that that's not where it should lead to. To bridge the gap between the occupier and the developer or the owner, there is a need of a professional expert who can understand both the parties' role, the situation, limitation, and convince each party. Considering that, I would like to ask Dr. Arnachalam about his opinion on this matter. Dr. Arnachalam, over to you.
Hi, thank you for this question. In our company, when we started, probably we had about 5 lakhs square feet, or probably less than that. From there, we have now grown to about 70 lakhs, 7 million square feet of space in about 170 locational warehouses. Almost we have covered all the states except probably the seven queens. So in a situation like this, if you have to really identify properties, while there are a lot of agents available in the market, but we feel a professional agency is very, very important in this endeavor. So why do I say that? Number one is the transparency of the whole deal. So there is a predictability of the transaction. These agencies, the professional agencies, can take us actually end to end in the whole thing, right from an identification, making different proposals, making the documentation perfect, understanding, you correctly mentioned, understanding both the sides and stitching it properly, something which is very, very important. There are certain compliance factors a company like ours would really look forward from the service providers, in this case, someone like you or any other professional agency, geography wise, plus giving regular update of what's happening in the market to customers like us is also becoming very, very important. So regular feedbacks give us in a much healthy situation, plus some value-added services also, maybe a 3D drawing, PPT presentations of various proposals, etc., with Google distances. So my summary is you all score well.
Retail is a word which is dominantly moving across the nation in this COVID situation, because retail is affected largely. Retail contributes approximately 40% of India's consumption and 10% of India's GDP. The report says that it also absorbs close to 50% of the employment in the country. Since retail is highly impacted, as we all know, in this current situation, how would it affect the overall logistic and warehouse industry? and especially the e-commerce industry?
Thank you. Definitely, the retail is one of the bigger component in the India GDP, as you mentioned, and e-commerce is slowly coming up. And in years to come, whether it is COVID, non-COVID, e-commerce is certainly going to take a lion's share of many businesses. This is the theory that is available right now. E-commerce warehouses obviously is going to be on a higher growth rate, whether it is warehousing or transportation. Because like I talked recently about US scenario, I was talking to a friend of mine. He says we are not at all stepping out. All are coming through orders, 2 days of delivery lead time. Two, e-commerce is definitely going to really move faster. Probably for 2 quarters, 3 quarters, it's going to be go very high. And if people get used to such a nuance, probably they would order a little more through e-commerce. Coming to the manpower, they would naturally find a way to shift between some of these verticals, is my feeling. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. That was quite adaptive. Thank you so much to share that e-commerce is going to bloom. Rahul, considering retail going negative and online retail getting promising, and in terms of even brick and mortar companies and retail getting over to online platform, do you think that online retail is going to really benefit?
Certainly, as Dr. Anandalam has also said that e-commerce is going to be rock like anything across. And you are rightly said that these brick and mortar realtors will plan to adopt online platforms too. There will be a new colored pie chart where number of items will be less, but percentage of each will be more. In old pie charts, people used to have their movie expenditures, petrol expenditures, car buying budgets, home planning, leisure and travel, and many other luxury events. But now in the new pie chart, we'll have a different colored altogether. It means that market has to trend with respect to new normals defined by the consumers based on their behaviors and preferences. I feel that consumers will be more inclined towards online shopping, but at the same time, they will be looking for a hygienically packed and good quality product with optimum pricing. These new normals will help the businesses to sustain in the market. Coming to the bricks and mortars, more digitalized. Normal experience will be replaced with the advanced 3D or 4D experience kind of things. In any scenario, let me tell you, e-commerce will rock like anything. Be it in FMCG industry, pharma, real estate, consumer goods, anything. The consumer size is big, hence both the models will have a coexistence. I would say that impact would not for a long, but yes, there might be a possibility for 6 months, 7 months, or 8 months down. 8 months down the line, situation will start improvising.
Cash is king. We all knew, and it's a fact. But I think the entire world would agree now much more than ever. So my next question is about cost optimization and cash flow. And this question is to Sumit. Sumit, when we talk about cash optimization, and we know in the past discussion that cash has been an issue due to COVID in terms of flows. What do you think from a short-term perspective and from a long-term perspective?
Cash is king, and definitely in these times, people are seeing that liquidity is more of an issue than long-term solvency. Okay, right now people are being worried about how do they manage their cash. Okay, because inflows have restricted, be in terms of new revenue generation or receivable recovery. Okay, you see there is a lot of fixed outflows that we need to incur. Okay, be it fixed overheads, be it the salaries that you need to pay for people, be it the rentals. We spoke about it in the previous question. Okay, many things. There are statutory dues that you need to give, insurances you need to pay. Okay, logistics industry, be it transportation, be it warehousing, there is a positive working capital cycle that developer or companies that run the 3PL companies or the 4PL companies, they need to incur. Okay, it would also become very important for them to have a timely recovery of money, and so that they do not face this liquidity cash crunches. On the cost optimization part, yes, definitely the need would be more prominent than ever it has been. If people would have spent more into development of the infrastructure around their warehouses, the automations around it, maybe multi-stack racking, etc., or they would have spent money into WMS systems, ERP systems, which would have made their life much more easier in these times. Things would have been relatively easier for them. And these are also, by the way, very cost effective measures in terms of if you see the long term effect they have on the investments that people do and to replace their operating expenses. The focus would go back on lean supply chain models, okay, where the supply chains are agile enough to take any kind of shocks into systems. And they also work on a very lean cost models where any kind of redundancies, any kind of wastages are not at all allowed. The Six Sigma methods that we have seen, okay, people would now start following that into how they develop their supply chains, be it on the most upstream part of it, which is our customers, or the downstream part of it, which is the 3PL service providers, people like us. People would have to rethink how they can have a very agile and a very lean supply chain. They can reduce redundancies, they can reduce wastages, and they can be ever ready for such kind of scenarios.
And this question relates to investments. Sandeep, how do we see the present situation affecting the investment towards the logistic and warehouse industry? Will large PE funds keep investing more, especially considering the positive impact or the negative impact on this sector? What geographical areas would be the next promising destination for such investment if it comes to you or to developer? Over to you, Sandeep.
Right now, if you look at asset classes, maybe a hotel or a retail, they are doing really, really bad. I mean, occupancy levels are all-time low. They are not being able to operate. Sustenance has become a problem. Office is doing relatively better. I would say much better than a retail and a hotel. In case of warehousing or industrial as a asset class, I think we are doing significantly well because at least 30-40% of our warehouses right now are operational. Clients are actually having some amount of throughput there. So that is a definite positive. One is sentiment against China. The other part is people would genuinely want to diversify after this COVID incidents. People would like to move out of China, set up alternate manufacturing base so that the entire supply chain get rejigged on a global basis. Assembly units coming up for a lot of foreign players. So that's one of the factors. Other than that, growth will be also driven by e-commerce. We know for a fact that this is possibly the best asset class within real estate. This is going to grow in future. This is going to need money in future. Now let's look at what investor would look at. Investor would look at a yield. Now coming back to the yield part of it, warehousing and industrial yield globally has been far more stable than any other asset class. Even now, the impact is very, very minimal. There has been impact, obviously, but the impact is very, very minimal as far as yield is concerned. So that is one part of it. The other part that a private equity, large private equity fund will look at is whether it has enough sustenance power, whether we have enough money to invest, but is there enough opportunity to invest? So they want to deploy 100-200 million every year, whether there is a market for it. Now that market is clearly available because we are talking about 20 millions, 30 millions. I think we will see a lot more private equity funds. There are a lot of private equity funds who have invested over last couple of years. There are a lot of private equity funds who are waiting in line to come in. We will see a lot more private equity funds coming in various format and various shapes. So this industry needs a lot of money. The infrastructure needs a lot of money. That money is going to get funded through private equity funds for sure. And we will see a lot of that coming in.
Thank you, Sandeep. Thank you.
Yep.
Sumit, I would like to ask you manufacturing requirements and industrial requirements from those countries which are mostly affected from COVID towards India. India being one of the probable manufacturing hub, and it can be. What is your opinion on that?
Already are seeing those news where companies are pulling out of China. Okay, as Sandeep rightly said, people have a negative outlook of China, and Japan, for example, have put up a $2 billion fund to pull out companies that were manufacturing, Japanese company that were manufacturing in China, and give it to other companies. Now, India has always been a closest competitor. India and Indonesia has always been very close competitors in terms of manufacturing quality, cheapness of the labor, and maybe the rupee, basically the export qualities, the strength of the rupee. So India is gonna be the benefactor. Okay, companies like Microsoft, Apple, Samsung, they have also explained, given their plans to pull out of China. So yes, we see a lot of companies, productions happening in India, companies coming in India, and the warehouse demand would definitely increase. As Sandeep rightly said, A grade for sure, because the times are such that where people would be looking into quality warehousing spaces. Also, it has never been history that the government policies have been so conducive for doing business. So all in all, we would see an impact, not in the right very short term. Maybe it starts having an impact after an year or so, because right now it is not easy for people to suddenly change their supply chain models. So not in a very very short term, but if you define an year and two as a medium term, yes, definitely we'll see an impact and increasing warehousing requirements in India.
Go to Sandeep to talk about new normal, because that's the frame which we have been hearing and we have discussed lately. What do you think, as developer or to the developer fraternity, could be the new normal under this situation? Sandeep.
Well, there is near term and slightly on a longer term thing. So near term, we have been seeing a lot of chaos. A lot of companies are uh, interested to start their operations. They don't know who or which authority to go. Government is also kind of not fully prepared, but they have done well to come up with online approval systems where they are giving approvals online for these people to start operations. Now, I think going forward, if the lockdown keeps coming back, uh, from what needs to be operated, what need not be operated, who needs to come to office, who needs to stay at home, I think we are clear on that, and we will start capitalizing on that. We'll start getting better on that. So that's possibly the near term impact. I think going forward, what will possibly change is that workplace distancing. We will have lesser number of people working within the warehouse, possibly because you have to maintain some amount of distance. So there might be a need for automation at some point in time because of this particular thing. And other than that, I think we need to focus on sanitization quite a bit. We have to have this sanitization drive within the warehouses and in the park going forward, and it has to be of certain frequencies. So that's also going to change. Other than that, the contracts, I have already touched upon the force major part of it. Now next, when we are negotiating a contract with one of our occupier, I'm sure both of us will be putting a lens to it and discussing it so that we don't discuss it later on. So that is something which is going to change forever going forward. Inventory levels are also going to rise because people are going to provide for these kind of contingencies in their inventory model.
Thank you, everybody. I think we have covered quite a lot of interesting questions and facts. I'll quickly take a minute to sum it up what I could gather, and then we can, probably after that will be shared in detail. New pie chart by consumers in terms of their behavior, hygiene and good quality product would be the next way. User experience will definitely needs to be enhanced and will be enhanced. Existence between big box retail and smaller retail could definitely emerge out. Very well pointed out by Arnachalam, saying that negative impacted retail, automobile, luxury class, oil and gas, and construction, and positive would be internet, telecom, food e-commerce, health tech, agricultural. E-commerce is the new way, is the big boss, as we all have heard. Automation, digitalization, yes, definitely would make a move in short term to mid term in terms of benefiting this entire sector. Mutually discussion is the only best way out to solve issues regarding rentals or any other between occupier and developer. India are going to benefit, on a good scale out of COVID-affected countries due to shift of the manufacturing and industrial activity. Warehousing sector will definitely lead always, and they are looking for bigger and high quality products. And I'm sure A-grade warehouses is going to be the next way out in terms of operation cost saving, good automation, I think. I would ask Zafir.
I think it was great to have you all, and your viewpoints were significant. And thank you, audience, for your patience hearing. So approximately 1,050 people were attending across the various platforms to this webinar. And we appreciate your time, enthusiasm, and participation in making this session so powerful and informative. Stay home, stay safe, stay connected. Thank you all. Thank you very much.
This has been a hard time for all of us. So let's make this opportunity, sitting at home, working from home, as the best part of our life, spending with our family, and at the same time getting ready for the next come when we are back to our office and resume our office. Good luck. Take care of yourself. Thank you.